jubilation, shoka, lamentation, bhaya, fear, arti, misery, dhamma, which gives. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. The subtle body is endowed with 16 parts: the five knowledge acquiring senses, the five working senses, the five objects of sense gratification, and the mind. This subtle body is an effect of the three modes of material nature. It is composed of insurmountably strong desires, and therefore it causes the living entity to transmigrate from one body to another in human life, animal life, and life as a demigod. When the living entity gets the body of a demigod, he is certainly very jubilant. When he gets a human body, he is always in lamentation. And when he gets the body of an animal, he is always afraid. In all conditions, however, he is actually miserable. His miserable condition is called samsriti, or transmigration in material life. Purport: the sum and substance of material conditional life is explained in this verse. The living entity, the 17th element, is struggling alone, life after life. This struggle is called samsriti, or material conditional life. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that the force of material nature is unsurmountably strong. Devi Esha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratyaya. Material nature harasses the living entity in different bodies. But if the living entity surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he becomes free from this entanglement, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Mameva ye prapadyante maya metam tarantite. Thus his life becomes successful. वैराग्य विद्या निज भक्ति योग शिक्षार्थमेक पुरुष पुराना श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य शरीरधारी कृपां बुधीय तमहं प्रपद्ये मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयति गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनतारिणं जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna. So we continue with our study of the history of the life of Ajamil. Every translation and purport is very fascinating, very eye-opening. Especially like Prabhupada's purports, his experiences, his realizations, his purports are so uh, real life, which exposes in his purports, he exposes the futility of material conditioned life, um, the nakedness of this material world, and um, the futility, the nakedness of our mental thought process as well, our conditioned mind, and the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In life, charm arouses when there is a good contrast. When there is a good contrast, it becomes very appealing. So, going through Prabhupada's purport, Srimad Bhagavatam, one will definitely find such a huge contrast, say, seeing, listening, hearing the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and seeing the ways of working of the three modes of material nature. And because it is living entities, jivas, eternal swarup, to be ever happy and to be completely under the shelter of the internal potency of Krishna. So, an awakening, a call, Natural awakening and call would should arouse to chant the holy names of Krishna, to engage in loving devotional service in association with devotees. Here uh, um, the interrogation by the Vishnu Duta is still going on, so they are kind of interrogating the Yamadutas. The talks between Vishnu Dutas and Yamadutas is going on, and fortunate Ajamil is still there, and he's watching this, listening this, or he's there and his fate. And wherever there is the intervention in this instance, and wherever the direct intervention of Vishnu Dutas, so one just be least assured. One can be least assured if just one maintains his focus, and then be least assured of the outcome. So even without going further in the further verses and further chapters, one knows, okay, Ajamil is going to be saved by the Vishnu Dutas, the messengers of Lord Vishnu. Ajamil is definitely going to be saved and liberated. So the subtle body is endowed with 16 parts, the five knowledge acquiring senses, eyes, ears, nose. We gather knowledge, um, five working senses, to our hands, legs, and the five objects of sense gratification. Mm. So, for eyes, the object of sense gratification is form. For ears, the object of sense gratification being sound. Uh, for tongue, taste. For nose, the smell, like this. And these objects of sense gratification, along with that, attach the mind and the mind on top of that. So already we live in our conditioned state and are so heavily pulled by this five objects of sense gratification: forms, taste, touch, smell, sound, heavily pulled by it, and the conditioned mind. So the living entity, the soul, is in actually in a very precarious, miserable condition. And Maya, she um, like Prabhupada Prana was explaining yesterday, right? Like Maya, she doesn't really 24 hours doesn't pull submerge us in water. She releases us for 24 seconds perhaps. And that 24 seconds we find, oh yes, life is good. There's good fun and all. And just that 24 seconds is good enough for us to get lost, for us to get swayed away, for us to easily, naturally get distracted. And these are the tricks of Maya. She wants us to have the 24 seconds to realize that karta hamiti manyate. Oh yes, I am the doer. It is in my grip. I can get it sorted. So Maya does two things as we understand it. Covers up our identity, our eternal identity, uh, and it lets us forget Krishna. Lets us forget Krishna. And we, on our part, we want to be forgetful of Krishna. We want to be, because the problem we carry is, as saintly persons have said, the problem we carry is we want to enjoy the kingdom of God, but without God. Without God. So we want to enjoy. This is a big bug. This is the biggest bug we carry, enjoyment, but with independently of God. So, and God being lovingly kind, He facilitates. Okay, Maya facilitates. Krishna facilitates to the agency of Maya. You want to enjoy, but real enjoyment lies in me. You want to enjoy independent of me. Okay, then Maya Devi comes in and lets us forget of Krishna and covers our real identity, our eternal swarup. So Maya does these two things, and then we get crazy with these five objects of sense gratification and the mind. coupled with it, and then insurmountably strong desires, mm, insurmountably strong desires, which lead us from transmigrating from one body to another, human life, animal life, demigod life, but all in uh, this material existence, all in the material world. And Bhagavatam, we understand from Bhagavatam like this uh, five objects of sense gratification. So Bhagavatam teaches us what um, there's this fly insect which is so heavily attracted light light. So whenever it sees light, it just cannot stop itself. It just cannot stop itself, and it goes straight into the light. And what happens? Swaha. Yeah, it goes straight into the light, and the light sucks his life air, the insect's life air, all together. And the insect willingly, happily, himself wants to takes the initiative to go into the light and becomes completely swallowed by the light sense. So it loses its life air. Such is the strong force of attraction. There's just one sense, one sense, the knowledge acquiring senses, or let's say in conditioned state, so called knowledge acquiring senses, because it thinks, wow, this is so attractive, so beautiful, and rushes into it. Moth, I believe. Huh? Then uh, through ear, a deer is very fond of hearing. So they say, capture a deer, play some music, music which deer is very fond of hearing. Play that sort of music, and deer, when listening to the music, gets stunned. Deer might follow the music, or if it's in its there, it will completely get stunned. Deer, and then the deer gets captured by the hunter, and the deer himself allows to be captured by the hunter. Just so gets captivated by hearing that music, that sound. Just the trap is set. Just the hunter sets the trap, and deer easily gets into it. Likewise, another insect, it's so it's so attracted by the say the sweetness or the smell or the of lotus flower, that it again allows itself to go into the wall of the lotus flower. And in the evening time after sunset, the lotus flower closes itself, and the insect doesn't want to leave, doesn't want to leave, and it goes and sits there. And next day morning, flower opens, but the insect is no more there, given up his life. How an elephant is captured uh, through the this sense of touch, sense of touch. So a male elephant, a female elephant is trained or in a way that to pass around the male elephant or just have that sense of touch, just have that slight touch of friction, and the male elephant gets very agitated, very sexually agitated, and wants to go and chase for that female elephant. Or uh, and the mahua, the elephant trainer, what do? They dig a big hole. They dig a hole, and the elephant is running, wanting. He's now like cannot just. He's lost his intelligence, completely lost his intelligence. And what happens? The elephant falls in that hole created by whom? The Mohammed, the trainer. And then the person comes in the scene. Oh, my dear elephant, such a gentle, kind being. Oh, I'm sorry. How did you fall in this here? You're not supposed to fall in here. Oh, this people here, they are really crazy. They are not good people, this and that. And what does he supplies some food to the elephant, supplies some food and tries some way, okay, I'm helping you out, I will help you out. And then eventually he gives food as well to the elephant and brings the elephant out of that hole. And the elephant thinks, oh, he's my provider, he's my maintainer, He's my caretaker. He has saved my life. Again, following like yesterday's beautiful class by Prana Prabhu was saying, like Maya, conditioned soul takes Maya to be his provider, maintainer, caretaker. And wherever you find, okay, uh, he or she is like my provider, maintainer, caretaker, dependency is naturally there. We would want to take shelter. We would not want to be dependent. So the elephant thinks, oh, this gentleman, he is my provider. He saved me. And the Mahuat, what does he do? Yes, okay, elephant, you need shelter. Come, I will help you out. I will take that extra burden for you. But actually, it is his plan only from the very beginning to tame the elephant and to train the elephant. Tame and train or in that process. And this is how Maya also, she spreads her web to tame us or train us or keep us in material existence. Because we carry this big bug of independently enjoying of Krishna. So now Bhagavatam teaches us that each of these living entities, say elephant, deer, moth, fly, each of these, um, they are captivated by only one sense of them. Just by vision, the insect goes into the light and swaha. Elephant, just by the sense of touch, he gives up his life altogether, becomes a slave then, just by this sense of touch. Then, sense of hearing, deer gets lost completely. Sense of smell, sense of taste. uh, Fish also, bait is the word, right? To hook a fish. So some bait has to be given. And just that tiny little bait. And what? Just wait. Give the wait and just wait. And see, fish naturally would come. How much food does the fish get? Hardly any rice or whatever food is given or whatever bait is given. Hardly any. And then the fish is swallowed, taken away by the hunter. And all this is arrangement by the hunter. So on their part, we can still give them this consolation. At least their one senses is driving them crazy and nuts, and they lose their life. They lose their potency. They lose their capacity, their worth, their glory. And on our part, humans, we are pulled by five senses in five different directions. We are pulled by five senses, five different directions. See how more kind of difficult or precarious for us. And again, the irony, Maya is pulling us, but we are not even aware that we are being pulled by Maya. Such is the irony. If someone is being pulled, one can see, okay, yes, someone is pulling me. He's my direct enemy. But we ourselves are sitting with our biggest direct enemy, our conditioned mind. Prabhupada writes beautifully in the purport Bhagavad Gita where he mentions like Krishna speaks that mind is our best friend and could actually be our worst enemy as well. So we are in our conditioned state sitting with our biggest enemy. And such is the workings of this world. Who do we spot as enemy? Oh, my partner is my enemy, the council is my enemy, government is my enemy, or such and such person. We see others as our enemy or have this tendency to put a finger or blame upon. So we humans we are too smart. So Maya pulls us with her, um, taking all our senses, captures us. Um, Imagine like being pulled by five different ropes from five different angles. Completely crazy, completely hallucinated and completely crazy and lost. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, actually, there are so many ultimate principles given in Bhagavad Gita, which we devotees should really uh, take more and more into it. And society in general as well learns a lot from Bhagavad Gita. They apply those principles. It's just they wouldn't give credit to Bhagavad Gita or Krishna because, let's say, for now they have not been blessed by devotee association, and they have managed to not find that the real cause or the provider is Krishna. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, very ultimate principle which everyone in this world are carrying. ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसा सङ्गस्तेषु उपजायते सङ्गात् संजायते कामा कामात् क्रोध विजायते. So ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसा, ध्यायतो by contemplating, by in Ashtanga Yoga, Dhyan Dharana Samadhi, right? So by that, by focusing, contemplating or observing Vishayan Pumsa on the sense objects, huh, then affinity, a familiarity, affinity develops. Oh yes, this phone, such sense objects like in this translation as we see, five senses, knowledge acquiring senses, and the objects of sense gratification. So there we directly associate, and we fall more in bodily conception of life, bodily identity of life, and lust develops, and if it is not fulfilled, anger comes in. If it is fulfilled, greed comes in. So both checks. Maya is completely expert. Lust develops, okay, fulfill your lust, fine, then make him greedy, more greedy. Hmm? But whose desires have been saturated? No one. No one's desires. And they can never actually be saturated. Uh, we think we are too smart, isn't it? We try to enjoy independently of God. But what do we get in return? Burnt hand only. And if lust is not fulfilled, frustration, anger comes about. So, of all these uh, sense objects, form, sound, smell, taste, touch, Ajamil, he was enamored by form. And this world, actually, every one of us are heavily enamored by form. And we see what happened. He saw a Shudra and Shudrani embracing each other, and he was so enamored by that form. And those hidden desires inside of him, they came to the surface. Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsa. So he saw and then contemplated. He went back home and say, had a good wife, children, lovely parents, good Brahminical lifestyle. But within his heart, externally, he might be doing yagya or things, but within his heart, contemplation on that form, on that image was going on. And that is good enough for Maya to gradually let it come to the surface and snatch a Jamil then. Snatch. So again, each insect, fish, elephant, deer, they are captured by their one senses is good enough. But we humans, this is why human life is a life of full responsibility, big responsibility, ultimate responsibility. We have been given five senses to engage them in the service of Krishna. If we do not, then Maya will tear us apart, pull us apart, all our five senses here and there from each uh, angle. Ajamil saw that scene, he contemplated on that scene, and then lust developed, lust evoked a desire. That hidden desires, this hidden desires is a very strong thing. Externally, may look okay, such a he's always on time, and his dhoti is always clean. Tilak is very good, and one should be punctual. One should be wearing clean dhoti, tilak, everything. But internally as well, we need to go more internal. So Ajamil, uh, seeing that he was internally contemplating on how life would be with this lady. Hmm. Shikoranta Mayapur Sashi ki jai. How life would be with this lady, And further on, further on, and Maya gives this hope that yes, life could be successful. Oh, it's okay. I've done enough of Krishna consciousness. Maybe next life I can call follow carry on. Well, Krishna says that nothing will be lost, so it's okay. I can take from there in my next life. Such sort of temptations. But again, in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, we understand. So it's a full circle. The the cause of the problem is there. The real root cause diagnosis is done, huh? And the solution is also provided. And what would be the stumbling blocks at each step? The many lessons and teachings from this pastime of Ajamil. One is like he was constantly contemplating. So this is very, uh, and when he saw that, he saw it from his eyes, but the subtle body eyes, the eyes of the mind captured it so heavily, it got saved in his memory, and he wasn't erasing it at all. And he was reflecting, going back to it again and again. So this is why we understand from Bhagavad Gita, like these principles, this is how society also tries to trap us, right? By giving us this sense objects and says, okay, you need it, need it, need it. So our wants have actually become our needs now. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavad Gita teachings Bhagavatam that many things in life touch and go, touch and go. As in, say by mistake, if someone's hand goes into fire, the instant straight away reaction would be take pulling one's hand out of fire, touch and go. So Ajamil saw that should have left it there, should have left it there. Such is the power of contemplation. And we devotees, we should contemplate on Krishna Katha, on the pastimes of Krishna, to develop more absorption. And especially tomorrow we have Shri Mahaprabhu's appearance day. So devotees worldwide, they would be preparing and contemplating on how to welcome and celebrate that grand festival. So devotees share this story as well. Once there were two, say, two monks, sadhus, saints, brahmacharis. Hmm? They were out on book distribution, some preaching work, some sankirtan work, and they were out in a nearby village to preach the glories of Mahaprabhu. And uh, in that, uh, they were crossing a bridge to connect them to another village. And as they were coming towards the bridge to cross the bridge, they saw a lady, a pregnant lady. She was there. She was wanting to cross the bridge to go and see a doctor in the village. Mm. So, and she was a bit scared of crossing the bridge on her own. She wanted some help. And so she saw these sadhus. She saw them sadhus and saints and monks, and she told them, "Okay, you are gentle souls. You are saints. You work for the society. Kindly help me cross this bridge." Um, and those two monks, brahmacharis, sadhu saints, they looked upon each other. What is this? We are going out to distribute books, and here is this Mataji, and she's telling us, help us cross this bridge. What will BBC do when BBC gets to know of it? That ISKCON brahmacharis are up to this sort of thing. But so they and another said, no, we should help her out. We should help her out. Okay, so they helped the lady cross the bridge, and came on the other side of the bridge. And then lady went her way, and these brahmacharis, sadhus, saints, monks, they went their way into distributing books. Now, interesting thing, one of the devotee is telling the other, one of that saints, monks, sadhu, brahmachari says, telling to the other repeatedly, oh, you touched that lady, you held her hand, oh, you took her, you helped her cross, you helped her cross, and it's like this. So you should have left it, you should have left her there, you should have left her there, repeatedly. And this other says, Well, my dear friend, maybe we could have left her there, but it seems like you are not able to leave her from your mind. We left her there, we made her cross the bridge, and we left her, and I have left her physically and from my mind as well. But it seems like you have captured her so strongly, or that thing in your mind so much, that you are just now focusing on that bit. So many a things in life, depending on the event, touch and go is very good, because we have to keep ourselves free. Huh? We are not reserved, we are not booked. We have to keep ourselves free, or we are reserved for the service of Guru and Gaurang, for the pleasure of Guru and Gaurang, booked for the pleasure of Guru and Gaurang. So Ajamil, he couldn't afford to not contemplate. He was contemplating heavily on this, and then he was building blocks. Was building blocks, and in his plan, in his vision was, okay, in order for that prostitute to come in, first of all, parents, wives, children, they have to leave the house. I have to make space for her. And then that lady came in, and further story, as we know, evolved or came about. Okay, on this note, maybe take if there are any questions, comments, or corrections or clarifications, please.
And then not be able to reject it. This 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 seems to be something which is very heavily exploited in advertising. We see how people are subjected to sounds and images, and then that forces them to consume particular products. So it seems very difficult. I mean, in the time of Ajamil, he just saw one image, one situation, but
True.
we're surrounded constantly all the time by these different agitations. So how do we protect ourselves against them?
Yeah. Both the things, like Prabhupada opened temple in central London, and where the hub of Maya is. And if we go in central London, Maharinam or Harinam, uh, it's a it's a different scene altogether. Such as the meeting, isn't it? The meeting of Harinam devotees and all these things. So how do we save ourselves? How do we protect ourselves? Well, thing is, one has to be constantly aware, clear, clear of his identity, of one's relationship with Krishna. This is why japa is not like a mechanical thing. Hare Krishna Mahamantra, there's a direct sambandh, abhidaya, prayojan in there. So one has to be very, throughout 24 hours, very clear of one's identity. Who am I? I am Mahaprabhu's servant, or I am aspiring to be Mahaprabhu's servant. Dasa dasanudas. So by constant meditation, reflecting on this and all, one should try with one's strength to safeguard, protect by taking shelter of the holy name. Then also by regular study of Srimad Bhagavatam, one would understand what is one's position and seeing the glories of Krishna. And these are the pastimes for us to help us out. Uh, I mean, devotees don't do that. Okay, look at that Ajamil, poor Ajamil, he fell. Who is that poor? Ajamil isn't poor as such. It's us as such who are poor. So from this learnings from Srimad Bhagavatam, and again hearing from realized devotees, hearing from them, then that definitely that desire will awaken in us. We are pulled by desires, and it's no harm being pulled by desire, but having that spiritually awakened desire. So by hearing from realized devotees, that desire will awaken. And two things are very important: one's identity and one's role. These are extremely important. Again, call it material life or spiritual life, either life, identity and role. So, like, how do we save ourselves? If we are constantly aware of our identity, and with that identity, our role. then we should not allow ourselves to be deviated. We wouldn't allow ourselves to be deviated. So by being in good association, taking higher association, and constantly evolving in our desires and aspiration to have that eternal, to attain that eternal identity. Theoretically, we now understand, we have slokas and everything, we have book, but we now need to um situate ourselves. Now need to bring in ourselves in that actual eternal identity. We actually become tolerant, not acting to be tolerant, but actually tolerant. So something on those lines, if that answers. Yes, bro.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for that wonderful class. Uh, I'm just wondering, this idea of the mind as a sense. If you can maybe explain a bit, in Bhagavad Gita it describes that the conditioned soul is struggling very hard in material life. The six senses include the mind. So how is the mind thought of as a sense?
How's the mind as a sense?
Mm-hmm.
Well, see, like in here it says 17th element, and in other places in Bhagavatam we understand Sankhya philosophy, they say like 24 material elements, and then the living entity, the soul proper. So, how mind is a sense as a, like, mind is the actually the king of the senses, say. So, all the senses, and they mind controls these senses. So, these different senses, they are like dull matter, but because it minds that gives that message to these senses or holds on to the senses, so mind is actually giving life to these senses in a way. So mind is in that sense perhaps the um, extension or the head above the senses. Uh, and then like some places like here it says 17th element, and then there's 24 elements. For us thing is, we need to purify our mind, purify our existence. Once the mind is purified, then the senses will be becoming purified naturally, because senses, they are servants. Senses will follow, they are servant. There's so many places where the mind has to be engaged in the service of Krishna, mind has to be looked. So mind is the head sense, perhaps, in that sense, if it is making any sense, bro.
Senses are horses,
Yes.
and the mind is the reins.
Mm.
So the kind of via medium through which the
Yes.
senses are communicating
Yes.
to the soul or through the mind. So the mind is pulled
Yes.
by the sense of smell or pulled by the like
Yes. Senses take food from the mind. uh, and that's a beautiful verse again, like I think Srila Rupa Goswami or Sanatan Goswami in Chaitanya Charitamrita. कामादीनां कति न कथिता पालिता दुर्निदेशास् तेषां जातमयि न करुणा न त्राप न उपशान्ति उत्सर्जेतानथ यदुपते सम्प्रतां लब्धबुद्धिस् त्वां मायात शरणम् अभयं मां नियुक्ष आत्मदास्ये. So कामादीनां कति न कथिता पालिता दुर्निदेशास्. Palita as in I'm keeping them, I'm paying them some money, and these desires, I'm harboring so many of such desires, uh, greed, lust, anger, envy towards form and all the sense objects. But tesham jata maina karuna na trapan upashanti. They are not giving me any compassion, no karuna. They are not having me, no mercy on me. I'm so much feeding into my dictations of my mind, but they are not at all making me happy. So now is where there comes a turning point, or devotee should say, that oh, I want to give them up. I want to completely give them up and take shelter of Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu, please accept me in your shelter. Mam niyuksha atma dasya. So throughout Sambandh our savior, ultimate savior is our sambandh, abhiday and prayojan. This has to be at our forefront throughout, daily, day in, day out. Who am I? What is my identity? What is my relation to Krishna? What is my existence? What is my role? This has to be always there. And some learnings, like say from this Ajamil's pastimes, devotees, we go out in books distribution, Harinam, and other engagements, right? Now, doing door to door or streets and all, we meet so many people. So it's not an easy task. We might be giving book out, but are we bringing, what are we bringing back in our minds, in our heads, when we return to our places, to the temple? What impressions are we actually bringing in? So actually, we see nectar of instruction of Rupa Goswamis. They are magnificent for someone to succeed in material life or spiritual life. On the surface, it may look okay, Sango Tyagat Satovreta, giving up the association of worldly people and this and that. But actually, when we devotees, they are carrying a big, big responsibility, complete war head on against Maya. So going out in books, Harinam and all, we should be givers. We should be givers. And when we return as well, we should remain as givers. And this will be there when we are very clear with our sambandha, vidya and prayojan. Otherwise, it is not an easy task to every year carry on with book distribution. Amazing are those devotees who have done it for 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, even more. And again, another thing with Ajamil, see, he did not reveal his mind. Again, the instructions of Rupa Goswami. Guhyam akhyati prachati, guhyam. So this was, he was secretly contemplating on it, secretly absorbing himself as if he is relishing. Such is this material sense gratification. It's all in contemplation. Oh, I want to buy this BMW. Once I get this car, BMW outside my house, I will actually go for a black one. No, blue doesn't look good. Black would look good. This all in contemplation. And once that BMW is there, how much of happiness does one? After a point in time, it's all depletion. It's all depletes. Again, like Pranav said yesterday, right? That Stockholm syndrome or that syndrome. We are kidnapped by Maya. Until Prabhupada came and our savior, we were kidnapped by Maya. That, okay, Maya is our shelter, caretaker, provider. Such is that thing. A person may think, oh, this BMW will make me happy. Uh, um, Garden will make me happy. This will make me happy. That will make me happy. These are the temptations of Maya, and we believe in it. So Ajamil, he did not reveal his mind, what was going on. He saw that vision. He did not reveal it. He kept it with him. The big one thing is, I mean, fortunate are those persons who have a friend in their life. They are the real wealthy and fortunate persons having a friend in their life. And by friend, I don't mean Facebook friend, by the way. Huh? Yes, sir.
Um, that we don't just reveal our mind to anybody. We have to choose somebody that we can trust.
Yes.
And if you find someone that you can, and you reveal your mind,
Yes.
and they say a problem shared is a problem halved.
Yes.
So whatever the problem is, you're like if Ajamil may have been struggling, but it would have immediately reduced to half of the struggle if he'd have just.
Yeah.
But the challenge is he couldn't just reveal his mind to anybody, because if it was the wrong one, wrong person who revealed it to, then that could be very
Yeah.
bad as well.
Yeah.
So it's like a double requirement, really. Find the person you can trust,
Yes.
and then reveal your
Yes.
mind, not just reveal your
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah. So someone say one may not be very attracted to the opposite sex, say. But if he sits with someone who is quite attracted to the same sex or opposite sex for that matter, say, and just even if reveal slightly his mind or not reveal his mind, the other person will get affected. Right now, one may be passive drinkers, say, the people who are passive drinkers. But again, sitting around, there will come a day, if not this life, next life, one can become an active drinker. So, definitely, who we reveal our mind to. This is why, friend, blessed are those persons who can actually say that I have 10 friends in my life who I can trust, who I can trust. And these are spiritually advanced people. So they will care for my body, mind, and soul proper. Fortunate, blessed 10, 10. Now 10 sounds a big number, no? In Facebook, if someone has 10 friends, what does it mean? Oh, have you joined in just today into Facebook? Within an hour. Oh, not even within an hour, say. 100, 200 is no big deal. Or so many things. But, I mean, can we say, have I got 10 friends? If I'm stuck with some situation, friend could be in India, America, UK, and I can ring and actually have a chat. And by friends, spiritual friends, one who knows the science of spirituality. So this is why we should really appreciate and respect devotee association. How much valuable. And again, revealing mind, one should not reveal one's mind to each and every devotee as well, under the instructions of Rupa Goswami. Sajatiya Sang. So where we find our inspiration, just like water, nature of water is to flow. So wherever our flow of consciousness should be towards the serving Radha Krishna, and wherever that helps, like taking that inspiring association and revealing our mind. Okay, any question or comment or okay, on this note, maybe we'll give you peace. Hare Krishna. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम महापुराण की शिला प्रभुपाद की निताय गौर प्रेमानंदी